I'd like to invite Jim's son, Jay, is going to just share a few words with us. Thank you, Jay.
The eyes aren't quite what they used to be, so I've got to throw on the readers. Good morning. As Brian mentioned, I'm Jay Lodge, Jim's son. On behalf of my mother, Lovey, and my siblings, Elizabeth, Leanne, Christine, and Rick, I'd like to thank you for being here with us today to celebrate the life of my father, or as many of you know him, Sir G. As Brian mentioned, I think it's probably 30 years, my father was the head usher at the 7:30 Mass, and I actually see quite a few folks here today from the 7:30 contingent. And I learned, I actually had the privilege of going to 7:30 quite often with my dad, and I know he placed a premium on keeping the Mass on schedule. So in honor of my father, and with that in mind, I will try to be brief and keep us moving. My father grew up in Boston with a strong foundation of faith, family, and country. He ingrained those principles in his 5 children, 21 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Somewhere along the way, he slipped in his passion for going to Cape Cod in the summer with his siblings, Esther, Peggy, Paul, Ozzie, and Bill, rooting for the Red Sox, attending Redskins games with my Uncle Jack, playing golf with his friends at Hidden Creek, and I actually got an opportunity to meet a few folks from the Hidden Creek crew today, and watching Georgetown basketball. But those areas all are for another conversation. My father had a great love for his family and was known for his sharp wit. He often shared the family Christmas photo with a doctor or maybe even a local auto mechanic. He wanted to make sure that everyone knew the depth of the family, or perhaps that there was more business to be had if they did a good job for him. Family has been the foundation of my father's life. As Brian mentioned, he's the number 1 in the ranking. He would open up all the Lodge family reunions with a speech to welcome everyone, 120 plus and growing. He, of course, as the oldest member, relished in sharing the stats of how the family had grown since the last reunion and introduced all newly added members. And of course, he had to do it with a crown and everything else, so it was quite a thing. But perhaps the greatest example of his love for his family was pizza night. So raise your hands if you've been to pizza night, probably quite a few of you. Yes, it was a lot of fun. Pizza night started on Friday nights before there were even grandchildren. Over the years, pizza night have been the platform for family sharing, bonding, and love. It was a place where we sat around the table and talked about the news of the day, politics, sports, and had an opportunity to hear stories from my father's childhood. He told us about selling newspapers when he was younger at Holy Name Church in West Roxbury. He talked about how he had to get to church hours before the first Mass to assemble the papers, and how the ink on the newspapers were often still wet, getting all over his hands and clothes. He would joke that his mother, Grandma Lodge, would keep her distance as she came out of Mass because he was so dirty. He also talked about attending Roxbury Latin School, and he would boast that it's the oldest private school in North America, founded in 1645. That 1645 was ingrained in me. I heard it all the time. He would provide details about how he had to switch buses and walk for a good distance on his way to school. He would also talk about his time at Georgetown and all the pranks that he would pull on his fraternity brothers. During pizza night, the grandchildren would disappear down to the pool, spill out into the yard, and into every room in the house. The grandchildren knew every hiding place in my father's desk where he attempted to hide his gum and candies. His only request was that the grandchildren would stop eating Chex Mix while watching TV in his bed. He had the patience of Job. Pizza night provided the venue for spending time with each other, and my mother and father always kept an open-door policy to anyone willing to jump in and join in the fun. His love for his family began with Lovey. While his Boston accent, shortly after moving to Virginia, actually disappeared, my mother's actually got stronger. 50 plus years after moving to Virginia, Lovey still says "ca" instead of "car." She is a key ingredient to the strong family foundation that has grown into what it is today. It is through their example that we've learned to be spouses and parents. Our dad always showed us strength and love until the very last day. As a family, we mourn our father's passing, but celebrated life that was well-lived and well-loved by so many. That love is apparent today. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.